Hey guys, how's it going? In the previous video, we have learned how we can create our Express server project from scratch. And in this video, we are going to learn how we can connect our MongoDB database to our server. So let's get started. So here I am opening the index.js file inside my source folder in my project. And here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to import the Mongoose project, the Mongoose library, Mongoose require Mongoose. So after we import this, we can say mongoose.connect. So this function will connect into our MongoDB database. So we can say MongoDB and we specify where we put our MongoDB database. In this case, I'm going to use my localhost database, and the port by default is 27017 and slash the name of our database name, which means the database name actually. So here I'm just going to say Express Mongoose. So the name of our database is express.mongoose. And if you haven't created the database yet, it's actually okay, because MongoDB will generate it for you. So you don't need to actually create your database manually. If MongoDB couldn't find your database name, it will generate the database for you. So now we can make sure that our MongoDB server is running. So because I'm running Mac here, so I can say brew services list, and here I am using the MongoDB is already started. So right now I'm just gonna say node src index.js and everything should be fine. Oh, I'm sorry because actually I need to save this, and I'm just gonna say npm run dev, and here as you can see that now we have this warnings, and you actually don't need to edit something, but instead of this one, so you actually need to pass the option new URL parser equal to true. So I'm just gonna add this inside my connect as a parameter. So just like this. Here, the connect method is actually returning a promise. And if you haven't know about promise yet, promise is actually a asynchronous operation. So in order to wait until the connection is successfully created, we need to wait until the promise is done. And to do that, we can say .then, and then here we wrap our entire code inside the then method. So it's actually we are connecting, and then after the connection is successfully created, we run this function. However, if the database returning an error, so let's say you have no internet connection to connect to your maybe your remote database, you need to actually catch the error. And to do that, we can say catch right here, and it's also provide the callback, and we can say console.log database connection failed, like this, just to make sure that we know what went wrong. Cool. So this is actually good. Now we can go back to our terminal. Go back to our terminal, and here the server is successfully started. Now we can open up our Postman. So from now on, I'm going to use Postman. So just because we are going to build a REST API, so we better have a REST API client. And Postman is one of the best REST API client out there that I can find. So in here, we can zoom this a little bit, and I can say localhost 8000. I can say send, and now we can see that the update. Cool. So everything is working fine. So after this, the next thing we want to do is we want to create something called model. And if you haven't know about models yet, models is actually a collection of MongoDB. So in order to manipulate data inside your MongoDB collection, you need to create a model. So we can create new folder called models, and in this models folder we can create our models. So let's say we want to create maybe a bookstore API, right? So this bookstore API should have the books collection. This books collection will contains our books data. So maybe the title of the book and as well as the author of the book. So we can create a new book.js file, and this will contain our book model. So first we are going to, as usual, require Mongoose, and here I'm going to create new schema. So schema is basically a set of rules that you can apply into your collection. So let's say every book should have title and the author. So you can define those things inside the schema. To do that, we can say const schema is equal to new mongoose.schema, and here we are going to pass the fields that are required inside this particular schema. So let's say we have the title as well as the book. So the title should be string and the author is also string. So this is fine actually. So the next thing we want to do is we want to export our book model. So we can say model.exports mongoose.model, and we pass the name of our model, which is the book, and then we also want to pass the schema. So we can say schema. So this book model should conform this schema right here. So we have our book model. So now we can test it out by creating this endpoint into returning our books. So let's say here we have the books, and then I'm going to import, so const user is equal to require, and here say models book. And now I'm just gonna say const, I'm sorry, not user but book. How silly am I? So const book is equal to books is equal to book dot find, like this. And because this code is asynchronous, it returns a promise. So we need to actually wait until this operation is finished. So we can say await right here, and we need to pass the async. So we tag this function as an asynchronous function, and we need to wait until we actually find or collected our books inside the books collection. So here in this function, we also want to return our books that we have just fetched. So we can say rest.send and books. Or maybe we just want to, wrap this inside data. So data is equal to books. So this should work fine. So if we go back to our Postman, we can say localhost/books because we don't have the slash endpoint anymore. /book, we hit send. Now we can see that here we have a data that returns an empty array. And the reason why we get an empty array is because we haven't created any books yet. So in our database, the books collection is empty by default. So in the next video, we are going to learn how we can implement the rest of the operation. So here we have covered just the basics of getting all those books. And in the next video, we are going to learn how we can create book, how we can update book, as well as how can we delete a book. So stay tuned. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you in the next video.